Do GLP-1s such as Wegovy or Ozempic have an impact on the development of eating disorders? Is a person with an eating disorder or a disordered relationship with food more likely to seek out and utilize these medications? And how does it impact our relationship with food? My name is Sheena, and I am a dietitian that specializes in the care of persons with eating disorders. And if you're learning more about eating disorders or want support on your recovery journey, definitely click that subscribe button. Now, I really want to dig into this topic of GLP-1 in eating disorders because I feel like it is completely under the radar as these prescriptions are being mass prescribed. These medications are being prescribed for everything under the sun these days: thyroid conditions, conditions such as diabetes, weight loss, and even eating disorders, which is the scariest thing to me. So, what exactly is happening in our bodies when these medications are prescribed? So, the original function of these medications was to help persons with conditions such as diabetes regulate blood sugars. There is an impact on both our insulin secretion and uptake. There is an impact on thyroid as well as ghrelin, which is our hunger signals, and leptin, which is our fullness signals. Ones also have a dramatic impact on the rate in which our body digests food, which can lead to slowed digestion, which can make our body to feel full longer. Now, this is one of the reasons why this drug is often prescribed as a weight loss remedy. But at what cost? And in which way might this be harmful to somebody that's experiencing an eating disorder? Now, I'm just going to throw it out there as an eating disorder dietitian. When I do see somebody that is struggling with food come to me with the idea of taking a GLP-1 medication, I often do treat this very much like an eating disorder symptom. And here is why. GLP-1 often suppresses appetite to a very dramatic level, which means that an individual on this medication may forget to eat, may delay or forego meals altogether, and often does not experience hunger and fullness cues. This is incredibly problematic for somebody with a disrupted relationship with food. And it can make it very difficult to meet our nutritional needs. Taking a GLP-1 is at high risk for malnutrition, even if we don't see this in the short term. Many individuals on this medication are only able to consume between about 1,000 to 1,500 calories without feeling extreme discomfort. And some individuals find themselves consuming even less than that. Many individuals to believe that if they don't feel hungry, then maybe they just don't need to eat, which is incredibly problematic because, well, your body's still there and actually it does still have needs. And so when we're taking these GLP-1s, it can be very difficult to even meet the minimal thresholds needed to vitamins and minerals and nutrients for our body to just function. And so what can tend to happen is we can start to experience some of those symptoms of malnutrition that we might see with an eating disorder. So this may include lots of menses for women. It might include loss of bone mineral density, slowed heart rate, low blood sugars, etc. And while this can be problematic for anyone, it is particularly problematic for somebody suffering from an eating disorder. A person with an eating disorder might have the logic that if they just take a GLP-1 medication, it's not self-induced harm that we might see with an eating disorder from intentional restriction because it's medically prescribed, right? Well, the problem is that the malnutrition is still there, and that is problematic for anyone, but especially for somebody with an eating disorder. Many individuals may take this medication as a result of the eating disorder, justify consuming a very low calorie intake. While this can potentially produce rapid weight loss, it often comes at a cost. So we've already talked about the cost of malnutrition with some of these GLP-1s, but it also can often result in very rapid weight regain. This is really common as we lose weight rapidly. We start to see shifts in our cortisol, shifts in our thyroid function, definitely changes in our digestive rate, all in efforts for the body to try to slow down that digestion, conserve that energy, because the body knows that it is not getting enough nutrition, even if the brain is saying, this is just fine. So we can often see long-term implications from this medication long after we've discontinued the use of this medication. What this does is it sometimes can have long-term health implications from that initial malnutrition from taking the GLP-1, but it can also lead to rapid weight regain, which can really amp up any body dysmorphia somebody might have if they were experiencing an eating disorder. And that can further prolong disordered relationship with food. Problematic all around. And we just don't know what some of the long-term implications of these GLP-1 medications are at this time because this medication is so new. Now, the second reason this can be incredibly problematic for somebody that is experiencing a disordered relationship with food is it can really ramp up what we call head hunger. So this is that emotional hunger that often comes alongside with needing nourishment, even if those hunger cues aren't present. We may start to feel completely out of control with food, and we may also start to experience binge eating, even if those hunger cues are not present. And that can really amp up all levels of that eating disorder behavior, including future food restriction. This is why I say, much like intentional food restrictions, skipping meals, or eliminating certain types of food, I simply pin a GLP-1 right alongside with those other eating disorder behaviors. Oftentimes, the reason someone is seeking out a GLP-1 without a medical condition attached is because they are having some sort of extreme body dissatisfaction or extreme food aversion where they are restricting certain types of foods and they're trying to pull in that GLP-1 as a mechanism to kind of soothe some of that anxiety around food, which makes that exactly the description of an eating disorder behavior. Really unfortunate thing about the recent surge in the prescription of GLP-1s is these are often prescribed to individuals that have raging eating disorder thoughts or have a history of eating disorder. Many doctors will even tout it as it is something that is a medical prescription. It is something that is okay to have, even if we have this history of an eating disorder. And that makes this an incredibly problematic situation, is that if a person meets the BMI criteria for these pharmaceuticals, the doctor may say, go ahead and take that GLP-1, which can really drastically exacerbate some of those eating disorder thoughts that they already have on board. It's also really problematic that these GLP-1s are being prescribed as a way to eradicate food noise for someone that might be, say, experiencing binge eating. A person that is experiencing binge eating is almost always experiencing that binging because they are restricting their food in some way. So trying to eliminate the food noise by causing our digestion to be slowed is really just going to backfire long term. It is not going to eradicate that food noise long term, even though it might do so temporarily. And it is most likely that those binge episodes are going to come back with a vengeance when that GLP-1 medication is stopped or during the time of the GLP-1 medication, because it isn't always about hunger when we are experiencing binge eating. Another thing that I often hear is that individuals that want to maintain weight loss on a GLP-1 must continue taking that medication for life. And that is particularly concerning for me because many individuals that try to sustain rapid weight loss often do so in a severe state of malnutrition, which may be resulting from that GLP-1 use. By the way, you guys, I am really noticing that a lot of my content is being censored by YouTube. If you want to do a really deep, uncensored dive into a lot of these topics that I discuss on this channel, definitely check out my website at peaceandnutrition.com, which has a lot less limitations on what I can say to you and how I can propose this eating disorder recovery information and information about eating disorders. I hope that this information was helpful for you. If so, please consider liking, subscribing, and sharing with a friend.